So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Paul Tindall, president of Phoenix Coaching Works and Sandler Training here in the GTA. Welcome to the Sales Leaders Playbook. And joining me today is Zac Sutherland, who is the president of Sutherland Insurance. And he is a fifth generation family-run business that he's running. And he basically started the business after graduating from Laurier. And he's been able to triple the size of the business and looks forward to continued growth. And the thing that's interesting, and one of the reasons we wanted to interview him, is because sales is, it's always been the heart of the business, but just not about closing deals, right? It's about building trust, building relationships, creating long-term relationships that last forever. So in this episode, he's going to share his strategies that have helped him to build that business since taking over. And hopefully you get some good words of wisdom from a very young but experienced entrepreneur. Welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Right. So maybe we can start by asking you this question. What can you remember when you got started? Can you tell us a story of how you personally got started, and maybe when, what was your first real sale?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was, as you mentioned, 4 years at Laurier. So 22, I came out first. Business was, I learned more about insurance in the first 2 weeks than I certainly ever did, 4 years at university.
Right.
Just with those, experiences and having to say no and having to go hang up the phone and those quick conversations and the ability to respond to clients, it was pretty unbelievable. But within that frame, and I had my first sale. I've worked every single role in this office, from service, sales to taking out the garbage. I've done it all. And that
typical family business, right?
Typical family thing. You wear a ton of hats, and I still wear a ton of hats today. But we're creating a little bit more structure here at this point, which has gone really, really well. But yeah, my first sales experience was about 6 months in when I transitioned to it, and it was just selling to my uncle his home and auto insurance. And that conversation, you start that kind of the family and friends piece, and I realized in that moment, and I won't forget it, the reality of what we sell is, the whole conversation was just about him and how he's doing. It's like, oh, by the way, I also have insurance. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Let's do that. But it was relationships. And that was kind of the framework I took from the start. We sell something that everyone needs. They require it by law. They don't know a lot about it. They just want somebody they trust. So build the relationship first and the sales will follow. So that was the number one lesson from the start I picked up and kind of rode that.
Was that home and auto or commercial?
That was home and auto in that case.
So can you remember the first time you sold a commercial insurance policy?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we're still all generalists here. So we encourage our salespeople to go, build the book from both sides, because we think there's a ton of opportunity there and niche out into some of these branches. But my first commercial sale would have been probably about 6 months after that. And I was walking in with, fortunately, my mentor and a guy, John Huck, who'd been with us for 50 years.
Did you say 50? 50?
50. Those are the joyous family business stories here, right? So John was an incredible man. Picked up the lead through one of our just phone calls, called in, and I asked John to come out with me. I was fortunate enough to have him by my side to watch me stumble through some pretty uncomfortable misses, but got the job done at the end. That was the big piece, is learning what you don't know. And when you sit in front of, somebody who runs a business and try to tell them how you're going to protect them, you better know the language they speak and how they do it.
Right on.
And that was a big lesson from day one. Unfortunately, I had John with me to teach me that.
So in that environment, John, right? Yeah. John, what was his role in that meeting? Did he basically just kind of shut up and let you do your thing? And if you're going to fail, you're going to fail, and that'll be the learning experience? Or did he jump in and assist you at all?
He jumped in as gently as he possibly could, and only for a few moments where he saw me stumbling, and just wanted to get us back on track and then let me take back over. So it was very gentle in his approach, and we certainly had a beer and a conversation about it afterwards.
Right on. Right on.
And where
Right.
to go, but tried to keep it on point for the client to keep them engaged and how that went. So it was very just a guiding gentle message from
Right. So it was a good debrief afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So here we are here today. And looking at your business today, what does growth mean to you? Is it about revenue? Is it about market share? Is it about team size? What?
Yeah, I've kind of mapped it out to, and being a 155-year-old family business, we're certainly not looking to sell by any stretch of the imagination. But going to a lot of conferences in the M&A within my industry, I went to a fantastic one that defined, the three key things they're looking for in acquisition. And philosophically, I just believe my business is only as good as what it can sell for today.
Because there is a lot of consolidation in your industry, correct?
Tons. We get called all the time. It's a joy. But the main metrics they look at is gross written premium, GWP. They look at retention, and they look at sales velocity, meaning how much you're selling versus your book size, essentially, that relative percentage. So those are the three main things I track to make sure we're constantly above industry standard, and above those kind of gentle benchmarks that have been set and frame me in a place that if the worst ever happened, something came up, we'd be as sellable.
Right on. So there's a lesson right there. Like, know your metrics that make succession planning, whatever that looks like, as smooth as possible. Right on. Let's say over the next, say, 3 to 5 years, do you have some sort of vision for sales in the next 3 to 5 years? So whether it's gross premium or retention, et cetera, is there some goal that you've written down that people are aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. We're sitting on 20. We did 5-year planning 2 years ago, and we hit our 5-year plan last year. So we went back to the well and put a new 3-year plan in place, and we're targeting 75 million in total GWP by in the next 3 years, and then the next 5 years, 6 years. So
Well,
doubling the business over the next 5-6 years.
okay. And so how do you generate leads now? Is this mostly just all incoming from referrals? Do you do any kind of marketing? Do you do digital marketing? What do you do for lead gen? And how is that different, if it is, from when you started?
Yeah, heavy referral base, different from when we started. Let's start there. When I came into the business, we had $0 marketing budget. And it was entirely referral based, and it wasn't necessarily strategic, where it was pointed with strategies behind how to, given to the team about how to go and ask for a referral and what different types of, whether it's a reverse referral or other strategies kind of incorporated. It was very just, you go do your job. So what we've been able to implement over the past few years is just more specific referral strategies on top of getting a marketing budget in place and starting the digital funnel. A lot of lessons there, a lot of mistakes through our process of how we were targeting. Insurance is the most expensive word in business, for all the reasons that insurance companies have massive budgets and everybody needs it. So it's a constantly searched term. So being creative and how you use AdWords and SEO and everything that goes with it, there's a ton of lessons in there. And one thing we just started doing about a year ago is we completely flipped our front end lead gen to AI. So we use an AI voice bot on all incoming leads. Why? Big part of the metrics of what was happening. It's the time sync to online leads. There's a ton of people just trying to shop.
Right.
We weren't getting qualified leads. We were just getting, people in the door that we'd be chasing, and our sales team would be spending a ton of their time for very low close ratios.
Right.
So
They're just shopping for price or something like that, and they have no necessarily any interest in building relationship. Maybe they already have a relationship with someone. They just want to see if they can get a lower price and take that lower price back to whoever they're dealing with and see if they can get a better deal kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
big time. And insurance shopping online, some people have made it incredibly easy. But the issue becomes, and I always frame this back, we don't want the client who's just going to go click 4 buttons and think they're covered, because ultimately they don't know anything about the product. If you go to the auto app itself, just the auto app, and this is very basic stuff, you would think auto coverage should be easy in Ontario. There's 91 questions on the auto app approximately. Nobody's ever asked you 91 questions about your auto, and nobody ever will. But it's our job to know how to answer them based on the frame of what it is. So do I expect you to be able to go click and properly answer those 91 questions online? No. And that creates pricing inaccuracies and frustrations and service issues and everything that goes with it. We want clients who want us to help them. We want us to take a little bit of advice, have a phone conversation for us, and that's what our AI bot does. It takes in the first 20 questions or so and then says, hey, we're going to set up a call for you with our experts. Now that we have this, we can give you an accurate price the first time and have a very real conversation about how we can get it.
Right. And then there'll be a significant percentage of those people that probably don't want to set up a meeting. So they automatically disqualify themselves. Is that what happens?
Exactly right. So we only want people who are ready to buy or curious enough to have a conversation, because
Right.
what we find with those profiles is they generally value service.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for. We want people who value our expertise and value our service of finding the best, not price, but best coverage for the best price.
Right on.
That's how we frame it from the start.
Okay. Well, let's move on to something else. Can you remember a time, I guess, after you started, there was a real, look, I guess the answer is going to be no to this question, but there was a real growth transformation opportunity. Maybe it has to do with hiring someone or some sort of a strategy that didn't go well, sort of like a messy middle, where something really didn't work out well at all. There's lots of little things that don't work out, but something that was fairly significant. That was a learning experience.
Big time.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's tons of them, but the most significant one was undoubtedly our investment in Salesforce as a CRM. And I think CRMs are incredibly powerful. We just have so much siloed data in the insurance industry, and the cost we grossly underestimated our cost to be able to integrate all the things needed to make that effective. And the time, energy, effort we sunk into that should have just been sunk back into just selling insurance.
So it was a huge time suck.
Huge time suck, huge cost suck. We're still paying out for something we haven't used for 2 years.
Right.
And there's a reality to that where it was, a lesson for me in my experience of, how to vet technology and how to properly, set up the contract of how this thing should go. They always hook you on the long term. And then, you know what? Well, I might not need it in a year. So I should pay the 2 times it is for the first year just to have the flexibility with how quickly things move. And, I'm an insurance expert. I'm not a tech expert, but
Right.
Salesforce, best CRM out there. And it is a wonderful product if you have the resources and ability to connect it to the things that make your ecosystem work. I would have absolutely, I love the vision I was sold is ultimately what it was, but we could not actually create it. And that became a massive miss, in a time where, we were fortunate to grow by about 18 points that year still. But how much more could I have done if we weren't wasting more people's or my time trying to make this thing work instead of not gleaning any insurance?
Yeah, it may be hard to believe, but we've heard this a lot.
No, it's not. It's not up through it. I couldn't believe the frustrations of it all. And it's something where, I don't believe CRMs are useless by any stretch. I just believe they need to be set up in a way that gives you the information you actually want to make a difference. Sales cycle, service cycle,
Yeah, it's a big issue, even if it does work out, even if the CRM you're using to get the salespeople to actually use it. That's another issue, right? Because they're always wondering, why am I doing this? How is this supposed to make me money? And what ends up happening is they stop using it, and management gets tired of bugging them to use it. They get fed up, and just finally, it's just not used anywhere close to what it should be,
It's
because it's wasting time.
that to me comes down to gamification, incentivization. I think there's ways to get people to act. Uh, we've, I'll speak internally, historically have shied away from incentivizing action, and in the past few years have changed that just on its head to, if we want something, we'll just pay people for it. And all of a sudden it's not just about the remuneration. We make it competitive. We gamify it, leaderboards, things like that to create the action we want at the end of the day. And the action we want is to bring everyone together to accomplish the goal. So how do you incentivize teamwork? How do you gamify teamwork? Is something we're constantly looking at. And it's not by no means perfect, but it takes away the situation you just explained, which we very much ran into ourselves.
Yeah, that's a biggie. So how do you sort of approach sales effectiveness? Like, do you train, uh, like how are your salespeople actually trained in? Obviously, they're going to have a huge amount of product knowledge. They have to write exams. They have to be licensed, et cetera, et cetera. How do you train them to be effective in sales? Or they've just been there so long that they just are unconsciously competent,
Well,
and they just know what to do, and they know how to do it?
we went through a big transition. 36 staff at the start, dropped down to 27, or sorry, 20, 26 actually, with all the people who left through the first year due to us implementing a lot of metric based performance results, or performance cards, if you will. And within that, we backfilled and hired, we're up to 54 staff. So, but we decided, we hired through that process all over the province, work remote, just very comfortable with it given what we've done. So we have implemented, we had no real formal training going into that. And we have done a ton of work since then to really lock in and get our training and integration piece really tight and really deliver.
Right, and this is specifically sales
Specific,
effectiveness.
specifically to the sales training side, because that's the most hired. We had 8 salespeople in 2019. We have 24 salespeople now. So quite a difference in terms of where we are, and varying levels of experience. Sure, you can hire the great, and there's a lot of movement in the insurance industry. We're often hiring people with experience, but how do we want them to approach the sale? How do we want them to use our brand and leverage it the right way so they can close more, the better? Do we want them to, what is the highest ticket, high leverage thing they can do? So we do it from a place of, one, the 2 key factors are mentorship. We set it up so they're, learning who our team is through osmosis, through watching them do what they do, through trading on phone calls. We have a sales lead that guides the whole process. And the second one's authenticity. And what we come down to there is we've set up a structure that I took from Alex Hormozy, who's a podcaster I listen to a ton on sales strategy and entrepreneurship, and I just think he's great. But it really breaks down sales into something simple. It's, there's really only 3 things you can do to improve what you're doing. It's do it more, do it better, or do something new. And you can kind of cross section that into the 6 different ways you could acquire a lead. And that's what we preach to our team. But that authenticity piece becomes the pinnacle of that strategy, because I don't want, again, I go back to what we sell. What we sell is something everyone needs. So our avatar or our client base is everybody. But do you want everybody? And that answer is no. You want people who value what you put forward and how you do it. Authenticity being, hey, here's a bunch of different ways you could approach this. pick the one that you uniquely relate to and is natural to you, because that then won't feel like work and you'll be 10 times more effective than if I go, here's a script, read it. And
Right.
you're not that cold called person. Some people aren't wired that way. Okay, great. If you don't want to do that, but we guide them. We don't tell them this is how you have to do it. We give them options and say, you make it yours. And we've seen that it takes often a little more time within that to start garnering the wins. But we've seen over the past 2 years, certain team members with no additional framework or setup or training, just following our path. Some of them have more than doubled their net new business on a yearly output just by finding their niche. And
Right
that's
on.
time to do.
So when that's a lesson right there. So when you hire salespeople, what are some of the greatest challenges you've experienced so far when hiring someone?
It's we've changed our hiring kind of platform strategy of how we do it so many times. And again, I'm going back to COVID because it was such a transitionary time for us. What we were and what we're doing now. Before it was just, kind of me or my father or one of the managers would interview and go, we like this person and just kind of try and make it work. We got a lot more deliberate about what we were doing. So we interview 3-step process. First one, interviews for culture. So it's our director of HR, doesn't necessarily know a ton about insurance. She's learned a bunch, but not an insurance person. And that's really key. We want to know, do you fit? Do you fit what we're trying to build? Do you fit what our clients want? Do you fit our team? So first interview is nothing more to it. Second interview is with the team lead. So essentially their manager. And the third interview is with myself or our vice president, Steve, to kind of map out those three, culture, aptitude, and then just a general kind of let's put the cherry on top and see where we're good. So with that, each level of that has kind of their scorecard where they rank the interview and say, this is where I think it'll fit. And then we take that and make the final call as a team about where we think they fit in, rank them in a, we think you'll be kind of an A, B, C, where it sits. C's are disqualified in our world. B's are very hireable because we think we have the ability to elevate with what we do. And A's are the slam dunk, whatever it takes. Let's go do. And, you find we've been fortunate to have an incredible team internally in terms of the recruitment over the past little bit. Offering still work from home has still really hit. Our industry's going back to the office a lot, which some people love, and I'm not opposed to by any stretch. I'm in my office today. We got 25 people here. It's great. But if I have somebody I can find who's an A player, has a great network up in Ottawa, why wouldn't I want them on the team? If I have the metrics and I have everything to manage them properly. And if they don't perform, I don't pay them. It's very simple equation on both sides. And then the autonomy they get back makes it a win.
That's excellent. So in winding up here, and in summary, if you could give one piece of advice to an Ontario business owner, and with your background and the fact that you're the associations that you're part of, it's probably hard to think of one thing, right? But if you could think of one piece of advice to give to an Ontario business owner who maybe has hit a growth ceiling, what would it be?
Get lost in the mud. I think there's so much that happens in our world, in our days, in our businesses that takes you away from the important things. And that's, getting to 40,000 feet and really thinking strategically about what you do. So it's carving out that time to really do it, because breaking through those ceilings, which we've hit plateaus in sales and bounce forward and then skyrocketed and run back down. We've seen that movement through what we've done as well. And the only time we're ever able to really solve it is when we step back and try and eliminate the distractions and really focus on what is the one or two things we need to do better at to get this done. And it's often when you isolate it back and look back in hindsight, the problems are never as big as they feel in the moment. So
Right on. Yeah.
that'd be
Well,
about it.
that's great advice. So thanks, Zach. Thank you very much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. There's a lot of advice here from from you, a successful business owner in Southwestern Ontario, with a lot of experience that you're drawing on, not just necessarily chronological experience, because like you said, you've really been you're relatively new, but you're basically dialed into the years worth of experience. So there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning that comes out of that. That obviously has been distilled down to you. Congratulations. A lot of people would value this kind of advice. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the time. And yeah, it's couldn't have done it without my father and everything that goes with it. It's the joys of a family business. I could talk about that for days, but I couldn't be blessed for the opportunity and just trying to keep it going the best we possibly
Right on. Thank you very much.
can.